to my channel, Alyssa Jean's Reviews, and in this video, subbing in for my monthly HRT update, I am going to be discussing bottom surgery and specifically the decision leading up to whether or not to do it if you are a trans woman, and specifically if you are me, because I am going to talk about what led up my decision to go forward with bottom surgery. And so I'll start with that announcement, everybody. So yeah, I have made that decision. It's something I've been thinking heavily about for a few years now, and more so the last couple of years. So a couple things before we get started. So first of all, I think anyone watching this video already knows this, but just to reiterate, I am freely acknowledging this on this video. You will find plenty of other videos of trans women or trans men talking about their surgeries as well, but that still does not give you permission to ask a trans person whether or not they're getting a surgery. It's a very private matter. If they choose to share it with you, then that's their choice. Also, I have told a handful of people here and there, people that I'm close to, when I have an opening in the conversation, but I am not going to come out all over again. I'm not going to go around telling everybody individually. So if you're someone who knows me and this is news to you, surprise! But you know what though? Anyone who matters to me is going to know long before I have the surgery. It's gonna come out. Okay, so very early on, I realized that it is okay if I never get bottom surgery, and I'm telling you that to anyone watching this, whether you're trans or cis. It is okay if a trans person never decides to get bottom surgery. It does not make them any less trans. And I was totally prepared to never get it. One of the things that I promised myself early on is that if I ever decide to do it, I have to make absolute certain that I am doing it for me and me alone and nobody else. Now, who else might I be doing it for? You might ask. Well, believe it or not, the transphobes, because here's what I mean by that, is that we internalize a lot of the transphobia that's just out there and we've just been barraged with through our whole lives. And one of the ideas that I had gotten in my head is that in order to be recognized by society as a woman, that you have to get the surgery. That's what I learned when I was younger, that in order to be trans, you have to get surgery. That's the only way to be trans. That's the only way to be recognized as a woman. Of course, that's not true, but that's what I learned when I was younger from the media. So with that idea in mind, it could be attempting to think that by getting the surgery, you're somehow appeasing society. You're somehow appeasing the transphobes. Yeah, trying to appease society or trying to appease transphobes is a losing battle, because transphobes think that getting surgery is mutilating your genitalia, or you're getting your dick chopped off, which is not at all true, by the way. It's not a chopping off, it's more of a rearranging of the furniture kind of situation. And but regardless, like, they still think negatively of it. So what would be the point of trying to appease that? The only reason that a person would is just because you're not even thinking about it. Like, your actions are being dictated by those thoughts without your control, because you've just been barraged by it for so long and it's just become a part of your subconscious. So you have to be conscious about it and be aware that you internalize some of that transphobia, and you have to tell it to go the fuck away. Just fuck off, because that is not a proper motivation for going after surgery. But if you stick with the general rule to only do it for yourself and no one else, you should be okay. Once that was settled, my decision came down to a simple scale. So I was balancing my apprehension about getting a surgery, or really any kind of surgery, up here, to my dysphoria in my bottom area, which was kind of down here at the beginning. And I had decided that if I was ever going to do this, the scales would have to be like this. that it would have to be completely the other way, where up here is my dysphoria for my bottom area, and my apprehension for surgery is much less than that. It's always going to be there, but it would be much less than that. First, just a little context of why I have such apprehension for surgery. Well, first of all, it is a big deal. I mean, I did my research back in the day, and I discovered earlier on that it's like a 6 to 8 week period of time where you are not allowed to really get out of bed. You can't really, I think you're limited to like 1,000 steps a day, or maybe even less than that. I forget what it is now. I'll find out before. But you really can't do much activity. You have to take off of work during that time. The first week or so, you'll still be in the hospital, but then beyond that, you can't do anything. You're gonna have to dilate at least 3 times a day at first. I think it gets less as time goes on. So those are the kind of things that I discovered. And honestly, although you're not chopping things off, you're rearranging things, you are putting your body through a lot of stress. So that is a lot of stress. And on top of that, I had extra anxiety just because I had appendicitis when I was, I think, 13 years old, and had some pretty major surgery done. The surgery itself was nothing. Like, I don't even remember it. I just remember being carted into the surgery room, and then all of a sudden it's several hours later and I'm waking up in my hospital bed. So the surgery itself, I don't remember that. And I would assume that would be the same of any surgery I would get, hopefully. But that's not the stressful part. It's what it does to your body. It's what your body has to do to recover. And also everything leading up to the surgery. I just heard a lot of stories about people having to jump through hoops, and people's surgeries being canceled at the last minute, and having to rearrange their lives for the surgeries, and having a hard time getting hold of people on the phone, and all these things. The whole thing, even leading up to it, sounded stressful to me, and it just sounded like an ordeal. Like, that's an ordeal. So if I want to go through that ordeal, I would really, really want it. That's why the dysphoria, what I decided, dysphoria would have to be up higher. What I was experiencing at the beginning of my transition is my bottom area dysphoria was not overwhelming. It was like, yeah, if I could snap my fingers and make that into vagina, that would be nice, but it wasn't like overwhelming. And the strongest dysphoria that I've felt, well, there's 2 areas in my body. The first one's pretty common, and I've talked about it a lot on my channel, and that's my breast area. And I wanted that to take care of itself. And, it's not perfect. My breasts aren't as big as I would have liked them to be. They're not as perfect as I would like them to be. But guess what? No women's are. Is the dysphoria really lessened from where it was a couple of years ago, when I would wake up in the middle of the night wondering where my breasts were? Yeah, it's definitely lessened quite a bit. It's satisfactory to the point, because I just feel, like a normal woman at this point. The other part for me was my hair. Which I know is not super common. I haven't heard a lot of people talk about that, where they just have I don't know what it is about the hair, that I just felt like I really wanted long, pretty hair and curly. Although it's not looking super curly today, but sometimes it's got its curlier days, wavier days than others. But even this feels good to me. That's why I wore wigs in the beginning. I wore bad wigs. I'm kind of embarrassed by some of the wigs that I wore in the beginning. And they were just hard to maintain, and they would get really, really frizzy very easily. And it was just hard to keep them from not doing that. And I thought they were like kind of crazy looking at times, but I still felt like I needed to wear them. And I don't anymore. And now my hair is satisfactory, and hair length is satisfactory, I should say, and it's still going. So those two areas of my body are pretty settled. So I want to describe some of the things that I started feeling about that area, but I want to make it clear that this is me, and I'm not saying that any other person needs to feel this way or should feel this way. This is just completely what was going in my head in response to what I'm feeling in my body. Mainly, it just felt like I had this extraneous part down there that was just obsolete, I guess would be the word. It doesn't really do anything except, you pee with it, but you don't really need that for that. So it doesn't really do anything useful. So I don't know whether I've explained this before or whether you know this, but when you are on HRT, that part does not function the way that it used to. It does not get as hard as quickly or easily or as often. And how shall I put this? Climaxing is a little different. It doesn't work the way a male functioning like male penis does. It just doesn't work that way anymore. Also, I was lost interest in having sex in that exact way. Even if I were to engage with another woman, it wouldn't be the way that I used to as a man. So I don't even have interest in using it in that way. Even if I could, which I wouldn't be able to anyways, because it just doesn't function the same. So it's just like, well, what is the point of this thing? And I don't know, it just over time that turned into it just feeling wrong the way that my chest used to feel wrong, and the way when I used to just wake up in the middle of the night and wonder where my breasts were. Now it's just more like I look in the mirror and like, well, that looks weird. Like, what? And it's just, so this just leads to a feeling of dysphoria, with for lack of a better term, that just grows stronger and stronger and stronger over time. And then I just started looking more into the surgery again, looking into the details again and the scales. I forget which way I had the hands going before, so just bear with me here. It started going more toward, I think it was this way, that dysphoria is up here now. Surgery anxiety always will exist, but pales in comparison to where the dysphoria is. And I felt this way earlier in the year. I would say like February, March, I was feeling this way. I had a phone appointment with my doctor to talk about my estradiol levels and that sort of thing. And at that stage in March, I just asked him, so, if I decide to get surgery, what's the procedure here? So, at that point, I'm already at the point where I could make that decision, but I wasn't. I was just, no, let's just see. And another like 6 months later, then I was like, okay, all right, well, let's do it. And so even after feeling like, okay, I've made the decision, I still mulled it over for another 6 months before finalizing. That's just like how seriously I took it. And so where I'm at now is that I scheduled a consult for June of 2023. I was told it would take a year to get a consult, and I scheduled it in August, so it was actually a little less than a year, so that's actually good. And then the other big thing is that you have to get electrolysis down in that area. I already have a person doing electrolysis on my face, so I was able to just have her go ahead and switch to that area of my body. I'll probably have her do the face on some appointments too, but mostly down there. So that could take a year or a little more than a year for all that to be done. And then, of course, the surgery would have to be scheduled, and it's not like you usually can get it like the next day. So I would be surprised if I were able to have the surgery before the end of 2023, maybe late 2023, but I would more anticipate sometime in 2024 for the actual surgery to take place, which gives me a lot of time to mentally prepare. And I'm not committed to it. You know, if I go into consult, I can always come out of the consult going, you know what, actually, I'm good. I don't anticipate doing that at all, based on some things that I've already talked about, my dysphoria level. But it actually makes me comforted knowing that I could, if I wanted to. I haven't signed any paper that's committing me for life to doing that. So even though I would be very, very surprised if I did back out at this point, it is comforting to know that I could. So that is where I am at right now. I'm sure I'll bring this up occasionally over the next year or so, but I'm not doing monthly videos about it. That is for sure. There's not really much to talk about. I mean, there's nothing happening. I'm getting electrolysis and just waiting for my consult, and that's really all there is. So I don't know, that was my thought process. I know that everyone has their own thought process and different ways of coming to that conclusion. But I mean, hopefully some of that might have been helpful. But again, I just think the bottom line is just make sure you're doing whatever you're doing related to your transition for yourself and yourself alone, and not for anybody else. All right, I think that about wraps things up for this month. Thank you so much for joining me. If you have not already, please check out the other video I did early this month talking about my kind of fear of transphobia, especially online. So yeah, check that out, and check out all of the other content that I have on my channel. And you can do that by subscribing, ringing the bell for notifications, and also like this video. I will see you all really soon. Thanks so much. Goodbye.